I spent 11 years apologizing to my daughter for things that were not my fault. Not occasionally, not when the situation called for it, constantly, reflexively, like breathing. She would call, frustrated about something at work, and somehow by the end of the call, I was apologizing. She would cancel plans we had made 3 weeks in advance, and I would apologize for making plans that were inconvenient. She would raise her voice at the dinner table, and I would apologize for bringing up the subject. I told myself it was love. I told myself it was keeping the peace. I told myself a good mother puts her children first, and if apologizing kept my daughter close, then I would apologize every single day for the rest of my life. What I did not understand, what nobody ever told me, is that every apology I gave her that I did not owe was teaching her something. Something that damaged both of us. My name is Carol. I am 78 years old, and I am done apologizing for that. Let me take you back to the beginning. My daughter Renee was born in 1971. She was my first child, my only daughter, and from the moment she arrived, I was devoted to her completely. I worked part-time as a bookkeeper so I could be home when she came in from school. I went to every recital, every parent-teacher conference, every school play, even when they were terrible. I was present in the way my own mother never was for me. Renee was bright, strong-willed, and sensitive underneath all that confidence. When she was happy, the whole house felt lighter. When she was upset, the air changed. I learned early to read her moods, to adjust, to keep things smooth. I thought that was good mothering. I thought I was protecting her. The truth is more complicated than that. Her father and I divorced when she was 9. It was not a peaceful divorce. There were things said and done that I am not proud of, and I carried guilt about the impact on Renee for years. I think that guilt became the foundation of a habit I never examined until it was almost too late. I started apologizing to her then, for the divorce, for the disruption, for her father leaving, for things that were genuinely not in my control. And somewhere in those early years, the habit took root. By the time Renee was an adult with her own family, I was apologizing for everything, for existing too loudly in her space, for having needs, for opinions she disagreed with. It happened so slowly, I could not see it while it was happening. The first brick was the divorce guilt. I already told you about that. The second brick was the first time Renee turned my apology into a weapon. She was 23, furious about something, and I apologized to end the argument. She used that apology against me for 3 years, brought it up at family dinners, referenced it when I tried to share my perspective on anything. I had handed her something she could point to, and she pointed to it often. But instead of recognizing what had happened, I apologized for how the apology had landed. The third brick. She called me one Sunday morning, deeply upset about a disagreement with her husband. I listened for 40 minutes. When I gently suggested she consider his perspective, she told me I was taking his side. I apologized. The fourth brick. I planned a birthday dinner for her 50th. Reserved a restaurant 3 weeks in advance, invited her closest friends, paid for everything myself. She arrived 40 minutes late, sat at the table distracted by her phone, and left early without explanation. I drove home alone and called her the next morning to apologize for the restaurant choice. I apologized for choosing the wrong restaurant for the dinner I had organized to celebrate her. That is the brick I should have stopped at. I did not stop there. Year after year, apology after apology, the dynamic calcified into something I did not recognize until I was standing inside it. She had learned that her emotions were my responsibility. She had learned that my perspective did not matter. She had learned that I was a person who could be made to feel guilty for breathing, and she used that knowledge without cruelty and without even knowing she was using it, because I had taught her to, one apology at a time. It was a Thursday in March. I remember because the forsythia in my garden had just started to bloom, and I had been outside cutting branches to bring inside. I was standing at the kitchen sink arranging them in a glass jar when Renee called. She was upset about something her brother had said at Christmas 3 months prior. She wanted to know why I had not defended her in that moment. I had not remembered the exchange the way she was describing it. I said that gently. I said I remembered it differently. She told me my memory was convenient, and I stood there at that kitchen sink holding a branch of yellow forsythia in my wet hand, and I felt something I had not felt before in all those years of these conversations. Not hurt, not guilt, something quieter and more final than either of those things. I felt tired of myself. Tired of the woman who was about to apologize for her own memory. Tired of the reflex that was already forming the words before she had even finished the sentence. Tired of 11 years of making myself smaller so that Renee could feel larger, and watching it not help her, not bring us closer, not produce a single thing I had been sacrificing myself to produce. I put the forsythia branch down on the counter. I said quietly, I am not going to apologize for that, Renee. I remember what happened, and I remember it honestly. I love you, but I am not going to apologize for my memory. There was a very long silence. Then she hung up. She did not call me for 6 weeks. Those 6 weeks were the loneliest and the most clarifying of my life. And when she called again, something between us had shifted. Not fixed, not resolved, but shifted. For the first time in years, she spoke to me like someone whose perspective was worth considering, because for the first time in years, I had told her it was. Here is what 11 years of unearned apology actually cost me. It cost me my daughter's respect, not her love, that was always there underneath, but her respect. You cannot respect someone who will not stand behind their own experience. You may love them, you may even need them, but you cannot respect them. And a relationship without respect, even between a mother and a daughter, is a relationship where one person is always slightly above the other. I had arranged it so that Renee was always above. It cost me my own sense of reality. By the time I was in my early 70s, I had apologized for my perspective so many times that I had stopped trusting it. I would have a thought, a clear and reasonable thought, and my first instinct was to check whether Renee would find it acceptable. I had outsourced my own judgment to my daughter, a grown woman in her 70s outsourcing her inner life to her child. And it cost Renee something, too, though she would not have named it that way. It cost her the mother she actually needed, the one who would have said, "No, that is not how I remember it, and here is what I saw," the one who held a shape she could push against and find solid. Instead, she got a woman who dissolved under pressure, and you cannot build yourself against something that dissolves. I had been trying to make things easy for her, and I had been making her weaker instead. 11 years. I cannot have them back. I need you to understand something. This is not just my story. I have told this to women in their 60s, their 70s, their 80s, and every single one of them has gone quiet in a way I recognize, the quiet of someone hearing their own experience described out loud for the first time. Here is the pattern. You feel guilt, real or inherited, about something that happened in the past. You begin apologizing to manage that guilt and to keep the relationship smooth. Your child learns that their emotional state is your responsibility. They begin, unconsciously, to use that. You apologize more to compensate for the increasing tension. The relationship grows more fragile, not less, because it is now built on a fiction, the fiction that everything is your fault. And you grow smaller and smaller inside it, believing you are being loving, not realizing you are disappearing. An apology you do not owe is not an act of love, it is an act of erasure. You are erasing your own experience to make room for theirs, and you are teaching them that your experience does not matter. That is not a lesson any good parent wants to leave their child. The most loving thing you can do for an adult child is to remain a whole person in front of them, to have a perspective, to hold a memory, to say, I see it differently, and let that stand without collapsing into guilt when they push back. Your children do not need your apologies. They need your presence, and those two things are not the same. If you are watching this and you recognize yourself in what I have described, I want to say something to you directly. You are not a bad mother. You are not a bad father. You are someone who loved their child so much and felt so responsible for their pain that you handed over something you should have kept. Your own ground, your own voice, your own account of what happened. You can take it back. Not with drama, not with a confrontation, not with your own list of grievances stretching back 11 years. The next time you feel the apology forming, that reflex, that tightening, that familiar reaching for the words, I am sorry, before you have even examined whether they are true, stop. Ask yourself one question. Did I actually do something wrong? Not, did this make them unhappy? Not, did this create tension? Did I do something wrong? If the answer is yes, apologize. A genuine apology for a genuine mistake is one of the most powerful things in a relationship. Do not take that from them. But if the answer is no, if you are apologizing for your memory, for your perspective, for a decision you made thoughtfully, for taking up space in a conversation, for existing as a person with a point of view, then do not say it. Hold the ground. Say, I love you and I see this differently, and then let that be enough, even if they need time to adjust to the fact that you have changed. You are not too old to stop. You are not too deep in to find your way back. I was 63 years old when that habit started in earnest, and 74 when I finally ended it. If I could find my way back to myself at 74, standing at a kitchen sink holding a branch of forsythia, so can you. Your children are adults. They are strong enough to have a mother with a spine. In fact, they need one. If this found something in you today, if something I said landed in a place you have been carrying quietly for years, I want to hear about it. Leave a comment below. Tell me one thing you have been apologizing for that you are going to stop apologizing for. Just one. You do not have to write a novel. One sentence is enough. I read every single one. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, a friend, a sister, a woman in your life who has been making herself smaller for longer than she deserves, share this with her. Not as a lesson, just as company, so she knows she is not alone in this and she is not too late. Subscribe if you want more of this. Every week I come back here and I tell the truth about what this part of life actually looks like from the inside. Not the polished version, the real one. I am 78 years old. My daughter and I talk every Sunday now. It is not a perfect relationship. It never was. But it is an honest one. And after everything, that is the only kind worth having.